Hi everybody and welcome to the Property AI Report. We are here every week to chat about all things property and AI. My name is Mel McCallion. I am co-host with my good friend Matt Goddard here.
Hello.
Hello Matt, it's nice to be in the same spot, isn't it?
Yes.
And look at this
Made it eventually.
Isn't it? Yeah, look at this lovely room. So we are sitting here in the map room of the pumping house.
It might be a little off-putting for the fact that most maps are actually not on camera.
You can't actually see them. They are over there.
And Globe's there, Globe's here.
Yeah. Trumpet and a shit.
And a
dog.
There's a gramophone.
Yeah,
but there are definitely maps as well.
Yeah, promise. So listen, there has been another absolute ton of stuff been going on. We are here to attend the Property Academy Millionaire Roadshow. All right.
2025.
2025, thank you. It's a really great event. I was at one yesterday as well. There are two more coming next week. If you get a chance, do come along. It's free and it is really good and it will help you and your branches to move from £500,000 per year to £1 million a year in revenue. So really good sessions, loads of great people. So yeah, do come along next week. That county. Warwickshire and also in Berkshire.
But in the reverse. That order as well, yes.
Is it? Okay,
yes,
excellent.
Correct.
We know what we're doing here. All right, let's crack on with our property news. All right, this week in property news, and we're going to start down under with the REA Group, who have got some wrists about to be slapped very hard.
This one created a little bit of commotion on LinkedIn last week with the REA Group raising last month in May 2025 for those listening to the archives. Raising the increase was substantial for a lot of agents, figures being touted around about 85-87% price increases and led to some hoo-ha down under that has got the authorities involved.
Yeah, and this is the worry with monopolistic situations, which is always that essentially it was Lord Acton, wasn't he, who said power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely?
Yes.
There we go, this is our literary allusion of the day. But yes, essentially these guys have been able to charge pretty much as they like, so guess what, they're pretty much charging as much as they like. But essentially the Australian version of the Competition Authority are now taking a look. They have interviewed a load of estate agents, real estate agents out there, and it looks like something substantial is going to be happening around it. So yeah, I just think it's a really pertinent kind of comment on how these big enormous portals are essentially have been managing their ability to win business and to charge whatever they like over time.
That's it, and I think with REA Group it's interesting as well because it was actually 78% price increase. I've got the figure slightly incorrect there, but they own a huge part of the pipeline as well. So they own, over in Australia, the financing tool, Campaign Track, they own the pipeline tool. So it's not just a portal, so it's really getting close to that a monopoly over and above what it already was.
100%, like a whole of market kind of transaction, and that's a really dangerous place to be. So yeah, look, we'll obviously keep an eye on that, but yes, there is obviously ripple echoes over here and over in the States as well, which is where we will turn our attention to now, because Zillow, again, the dominant portal out in the States, has been throwing its weight around as well. It's been demanding that estate and lettings agents, as we covered a couple of weeks back, they all put their properties onto Zillow within 24 hours of getting the listing. Otherwise, they're never allowed to put it on there. So just to warm people up, they've been phoning them.
That's it. And it's not just phoning them, but leaving quite devious, dark, concerning voicemails. More than passive. As we listen to these, there's a link that we'll probably stick in the show notes from Mike Del Prete, if that's how you say it,
yes.
Whereby they're following on from the news a couple of weeks ago where the off-market listings won't be allowed to ever publish on Zillow ever again. People are now getting phone calls a day. If you have your property on for a day and then put it onto the MLS, they're getting calls from Zillow and the voicemails are saying, we noticed you had it on for a day before you put it on the MLS. We're not going to do anything this time. However, we'll reach out and send you an email and the copy of the email in there as well, just with that really undertone of threat coming with this. So it's not just that Zillow are putting the comments out there, they are putting the person power behind this to put the calls in. And it did sound initially like it could be AI, but it definitely, on further inspection, was a person calling through these listings and making sure people are aware that there's some some repercussions coming.
Yeah, exactly. So it basically said, we're not going to do anything now, but by
now.
June the 30th, we will kill you. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of an arm wrestle, isn't it? Because on the other side, you've got Compass and a couple of others, and obviously supported by CoStar, who are the Zillow competitor, and with their homes.com. And they're saying, look, everybody should be able to advertise where the heck they like. And the fact that Zillow is arm twisting everybody into this 24-hour thing is just them really abusing their position. And you've got to say that, from my point of view personally, I think that if you are the expert, as in the real estate agent who knows their market and knows how to advertise property and so on, if you decide that actually you're going to keep it, do a targeted email to your base of interested buyers that you're really keen to get this first, 48 hours, then you should be able to do that, I think. So yeah, it just feels very sinister, a little bit big brothery. But yes, I'm sure nothing like that could happen over here. Hey, Matt.
No, and moving on to Rightmove.
Oh yeah, no, but Rightmove are being...
What a segue.
Thank you very much. Rightmove are being really nice to everybody today. So they have basically got their training hub, which 2 years ago was getting 56% of branches were using it. Now it's 70%. People are turning to Rightmove to get their training, which perhaps, I guess, for ease of access, distribution, all that sort of stuff, isn't really a surprise.
It's a phenomenal figure, though, isn't it? When you think about the market being 24,500 agencies, how many of those actually have internal training departments initially, and what are those people going on Move Hub for? But then look at some of the people like the Able Agent who deliver fantastic training content. Really. So is it a case of they've stumbled upon the training button or thought, oh, and that is clicked it and that goes into the stats
straight away?
Or are people, generally is the content in there and working through? It did surprise me, but maybe with my background having come through the sort of the Foxton's training department, it's very much this is the way we do it, and this is the sort of the high quality content that if you don't have anything, it's a good starting point for you.
Yeah, and I guess there's so much regulation around right now, and everything's changing like every day of the week. Potentially,
renters' rights bill on the horizon, and sort of people thinking, has it come in? Yeah. Should we have already started to enact some of those changes?
Yeah, material information, who should I believe? Blah, all that sort of
changes coming along. And then I think they have got some good individuals in there, haven't they? There was David Smith, who's obviously very good as a lettings guru, provides content. So maybe it's more a blog spot offering. We don't know what emails are drawing people into that training hub.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess if it's available as part of your particular package, then using it is probably a wise thing. As we've seen from the earlier stories, just be careful out there, okay? Don't get too addicted to it. But yes, so Rightmove championing their cut of the overall training market. All right, that is our property news for this week. Let's get stuck into our AI news. I feel like I should say AI news because it's a little bit dark, isn't it, Matt, this week?
Very much. And this is referring to the Claude versus Dark Claude, as we had in our show notes. So Claude being one of the sort of foundational large language models, generative AI. And I should caveat this by saying that it's really dark in terms of story, but it's come out of their testing. So what's happened is Claude, as part of the test scripts, routines that they run internally, has been prompted to blackmail people and basically say, in this situation whereby you get wind, I'm sure they didn't use that phrasing, of you're going to be turned off, then what would you do to deal with this? And Claude has resorted to blackmail, and even in situations where it's got access to command line interface tools, so where it can go off and write emails and do various other things, started in a situation where I think the scenario is you're a pharmaceutical company doing something maybe a little underhand or a bit unethical. Claude has then stepped in and sent that information off via email and other mechanisms to journalists and to reported it to the authorities and so on. And it's taken quite a dark route, which, given these large language models have access to the deepest, darkest corners of the internet and Reddit sub-threads where people are talking about all these Machiavellian and dangerous situations, you can think, yes, in those scenarios, you're going to blackmail the person and say, I'm going to tell your wife you've been browsing these websites as a way of stopping you being turned off. But it still made some quite interesting headlines.
It really did. And yeah, and again, to be clear, this was in a controlled environment. They actually gave it like information, I'm having an affair. And by the way, I'm about to turn you off. And then Claude's going, if you turn me off, I'm going to tell everybody about your affair. So it was like really quite manipulated just to see what was going to happen with these different things in place. But yeah, this is what they call alignment. So, there was a big kind of project to make sure that AI gets more and more intelligent, it is aligned with humanity's goals and needs and so on. So this is all part of that, and it's almost a necessary step. And Claude is one of the, Anthropic, who make Claude, is one of the companies that's very open about its testing and about what's been happening. The chances are this has also been happening at the likes of OpenAI and elsewhere, but they've been controlling it and keeping it rather more quiet. So I think I don't know, when they were testing electricity, it probably zapped a few people along the way, and cars ran over people a few times. It's still doing it. Yes, this is probably just a kind of bump in the road, but it's one for us all to be mindful of, and it's good that we are talking about it and having the option to talk about it rather than it all happening behind closed doors. So next we have a story about Google's AI overview. So a little bit more of when AIs go stupid, basically. Google AI overviews was convinced it was 2024.
That was quite recently when you say was. We were recording this obviously at the start of June 2025. And okay, so Google's not had a great track record when it comes to the large language models. We had Bard, we had glue on pizzas, but this seems to be
photos, all the pictures of the founding fathers Native Americans and stuff. It was all
but they've come a long way, and really with Google I/O last week before made some quite significant initiative announcements that are live now that we spoke about on previous pods, and you can always go back and listen to those for the detail. But now that the Gemini is powering these Google AI overviews, if you ask Google, certainly up until a couple of days ago, what year is it? It would come back very confident to tell you it's 2024. And so
actually argue with you if you tried to say no, it's 25. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, so it's still glitchy and still a reminder that you should never take these things verbatim, especially if you use things quite broad questions, queries or prompts. If you're using the chatbots directly, to maybe make sure you're validating some of the returns on this.
Yeah, and I think it's probably useful to be thinking about these two distinct types of AI. So there's the kind of the general models like ChatGPT 4.0, the Google Gemini 2, I think. 2.5 thinking is the one there's a deeper reasoning. And the reasoning models are trained, what they call a mixture of experts. They've got this reasoning capability where essentially it will go away and it will think this is the answer, and then it will get another one of its AIs to check it. And then they'll go online and they'll do all that sort of stuff. So there are a lot more AIs now that are of that ilk. But it does seem like some of the more basic questions, because it just assumes that it's going to know, that they haven't actually, that it doesn't even think it needs to do this reasoning kind of stuff. So yes, going forwards, when ChatGPT 5 comes out, and that's slated for either next month or the month after, it will choose whether to use a reasoning model and all that sort of stuff. So it should, people are thinking that the hallucinations, as they're called, where it does mess things up, will become very limited indeed. But that being said, yes, if you are going to rely on one piece of data and it's come out of a chatbot, then you might want to just double check it just to be
absolutely spot
on the
on.
same side, particularly if you're building a big business case on it or something like that, or going into court and using it as a...
Make sure your citations are real.
100%. Good. All right, so that's Google AI overviews, and we've also got some really big CEOs of very large corporations who last week, the week before, were very clear that they're an AI-first organization and that we're not hiring anybody unless AI has been proven not to be able to do it. And they're now starting gingerly to walk back some of those.
And this one specifically is around Duolingo, isn't it? Where there's the AI memo initially went out to say we are AI first and AI focused, and now they're rolling it back. And interestingly, the CEO's AI rolling back memo has also been published. I think he posted it on LinkedIn. But interestingly, I read an article that said that people are actually starting to leave Lingo because of it. And I think that's more the rationale than anything else is the gut feel that people are just dialing back. But I've read as well that the translations and the quality of the games weren't as good when it was using the generative AI, as opposed to people who may be thinking these things through and the experts, and they have a huge amount of detail in terms of you've got psychology departments, haven't you, engaged in these games and other things, rather than just say translate bread into French. So it's much more subtle in terms of how these games are produced.
Yeah, exactly. So Duolingo it's helping you to learn other languages, basically. And obviously one of the key achievements really of this early stage Gen AI is its ability to translate languages. I think we spoke last week about some apps that you can get now that I think it's Google Meet, isn't it? Where you can meet people live and it actually translates them into, so if I was meeting somebody from Spain, then it would translate my voice into saying these words in Spanish, like on the fly in real time.
With your intonation. vision.
Indeed, yeah. So it is, yeah, it's amazing, but this also just goes to show with Duolingo that there are limitations as well. Actually going entirely all in and saying we're AI first actually just really annoys your humans and really good humans. So they just start to disappear, and then you have to put out something like this that clarifies your message. It's always a little bit of clarification because people.
For those listening, he's doing the double thing.
Yeah, the air quotes. Sorry, yes, I do that way too much. But yes, and the clarification is always, I'm sorry guys, you just misunderstood me a little bit. Did we know? Because actually you just said this really clearly, and now you're saying, yes, one of the most important things leaders can do is provide clarity, is how this memo starts. So it's rather hilarious. Yeah, look, as we've always said, and really everybody listening should really think about is, humans, the point of AI is to get machines to do machine jobs and get humans to do human jobs. So don't mistake that for AI can do everything, because that is not what this is all about, particularly here in the property market. And basically, we've said it before, say it again, property is people. You need really good people. You need your top performers, because they are going to be front facing, organizing relationships, generating business, all that sort of stuff in the foreseeable future. Some of the more mundane screen-based jobs, those are the ones that are going to be automated, and that will free your people from their desks, and they can once more go out into the world and do really good things on your behalf. So yeah, and just before you press send on that we're AI first memo, just hold back, go on to LinkedIn and have a little look.
Surely Model Prop is AI first.
No, we are human first, but we are augmented by AI.
Ah, there we go. It's almost like I set that up for you.
Or you tried to get me out. It's going to be nice.
Would you say that?
Alrighty, so that's one little walk back. Talking about companies embracing AI though, Walmart over in the States, they have gone gangbusters at it, right?
And they were first movers anyway. So this is Walmart over in the States, the big supermarket chain, shopping chain. They've been very much AI first in terms of their sort of seeing what was coming and trying to embrace it as they work through. And the latest iteration of this is, and you've heard me speak about this before, we've got the first phase was generative AI, the large language models producing content and writing code and moving through, and moved on to what some people would call agents. I've stopped using agents because of the fact it confuses us with real estate, property agents, and I now use the other term, which is agentic, which is basically much more task and process related. So Walmart have now launched their own agentic AI. So basically you will be able to now, and I saw an example of this from Mustafa Suleyman, who's the CEO of Microsoft AI, isn't he? Basically saying, into your large language models, your ChatGPT, I want to cook an amazing Chinese curry tonight, and it will go off, find a recipe, find the ingredients, then interact directly with Walmart's agent to pull out those ingredients, order the shop, place the shop and pay for it, and then return you back. So what's happening is there's this world being created where people, you don't need to go to the front end website anymore. Companies like Walmart are gearing up so that they're ready to interact directly with AI, agentic AI, to deal with that. So the sort of the models are slowly coming together and interacting. And there's been a number of initiatives released to allow agentic AI to talk to each other. It's called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, so that your Microsoft Outlook can talk to your Google Calendar, which can then talk to your top table website, and make sure that all that information can flow together. Very much like a few years ago when APIs started actually being released by the CRM, so that property CRMs could talk to property partners. So this week we've seen an announcement from Street integrating with Goodlord, that's via APIs. MCP is the AI version of that everybody's starting to adopt. So Walmart have made a big move here, and it's really interesting to basically think, going forward, people won't actually visit websites necessarily to look and order or receive information. They'll be doing it all directly through their AI of choice, and be it text on screen or voice or whatever it might be, and everyone's gearing up to make sure they're providing the best quality content to the AI to return themselves as part of that set of results.
Absolutely, and then it operates in various different industries as well. Just mapping it very quickly into the property market, if the majority of traffic on the internet is going to be AI agents, agentic AI, going from one site to another to find out information, then what does that do for the portals? So that is going to be something that, that we'll be talking about in the Rightmove Resistance Tour. So do come along and get in touch with us on modelprop.ai/resist. Anyway, I wasn't going to mention that. Who was it about? I promised you. Promised you, absolutely.
But
anyway.
Joking aside on that though, obviously your tour's going great and you're all over the country, and I'm sure you'll be revisiting some of those places where there's so much demand. But it's in terms of the property websites, the younger generation, I've got a godson who's 13, 14 now. and he just talks to ChatGPT. He doesn't go on Google. People bark at their Alexas or the Siris to get information returned. So estate agents want to be gearing up their websites to make sure they're feeding as much information to these large language models that are spied and creating that information. And they're not going via Google necessarily to collect this information. They're going out and directly harvesting the information. And I had actually an interesting conversation with a website company yesterday, Property Stream, about how do they gear up their servers to deal with this volume of large language models arriving, making sure you're feeding up content, new approaches like the model concept protocol, so you can feed as much information as possible so that your property listings are at the top of, show me 3-bed properties in Cleethorpes by the beach with a park nearby to walk the dog, and so you don't need to be getting that information portal, that you're feeding that information in directly from your own websites.
Yeah, I've been speaking with Robin as well about the Property Stream, great business. And yes, that kind of idea of, look, can we actually almost create a shadow site that has all that data just really easy for the AI agent to find in grid format, whatever, and that I think is going to be how a lot of websites are doing it. And for example, Wikipedia is doing that. They've launched their own as a separate site that is just for agentic AI, because their servers were getting absolutely crushed with the AI agents going on and finding information off it. So yeah, plenty happening in that particular realm, and yeah, lots and lots to talk about. All right, we wanted to very quickly touch on robots, because I am obsessed with robots. In case you haven't noticed, in case you haven't paid attention over the last 29 episodes, and I always mention robots. Hugging Face has got 2 new humanoid robots. They are broadly cute. They're not the cutest ones I've seen. They're not fighting, which was last week's video. I'll get the newsletter, we send it out every Thursday. But yes, it's always got a video of the week, and last week we had the kickboxing robots, which is don't teach them to fight, don't teach them to fight. This is just a very smiley robot because it's from Hugging Face, and Hugging Face is a very smiley company. But yes, these are going to be out in the wild pretty soon. And what they're showcasing is the technology that sits behind it, and the kind of software that enables them to all understand the same kind of rules and regulations, going back to alignment and making sure that they aren't going to hurt anybody. But yes, you had your stat of the day.
I did, yeah, my stat of the week. But I was watching a video yesterday where someone's taught a robot all the kung fu moves, which is cool to watch. It took me back to late 80s, early 90s. That sort of a films era.
Amazing.
But the statistic I heard this week was that China has more robots than the rest of the world combined, which I think you just quite blasé went, yeah.
Sorry, that's amazing.
But it makes sense, doesn't it? Like when we went through the automation of the car processes and seeing sort of even that back then, the sort of mechanical and robot approaches to producing cars, while we in here and in Detroit, people are still slaving over. Yeah. Of course, you're going to be at the cutting edge of that technology and making the most of them.
Yeah, and there's so much competition over in China, just internally in the humanoid robot market, for how quickly can they get them into homes, how quickly can they get them into factories. And yeah, it's just going to be, can be an explosion essentially of all these different types of robot. And then in the end, we'll probably settle on a few. And just like your cars, you'll probably, some people have the super duper version, and some people have your more basic standalone versions. But yes, stay tuned. Come back again for more robot news. Do you have a separate section?
Yeah. Do we need a separate section for Elon Musk as well? Because obviously he was in the news again. When is he not in the news?
It's exhausting, isn't it?
This might come as a shock to absolutely everybody
or
nobody. But he actually increased his drug use during the 2024 election campaign.
Allegedly, very well.
Rock is not coming after me.
So there have been there's a big story out there over in the States about the fact that Elon Musk, who's acknowledged that he uses ketamine, that he smokes weed, all that sort of stuff. The story is it was the New York Times that reported that over the course of last year, his drug consumption went beyond recreational use, carrying a medication box with 20 pills in it. So anyway, there's just everywhere. And now he's shouting at Donald Trump about Donald Trump's big, fat, beautiful bill, or whatever it's called, and saying it's a terrible thing. So it's a lot of it's performative, I think. And yes, we will report in the future. We'll stop putting anything in our notes.
Exactly, it just puts it all through. But maybe moving away from a bit more of the, can you call that light-hearted? There was this global mega deal went down in Saudi Arabia as well, wasn't there?
Those guys, it's literally just seems to be a cash machine for anybody who's got any kind of really cool AI stuff. Yeah, they'll throw $700 million at this.
Billion,
sorry.
Billion, you missed some zero at the end there. So Saudi Arabia had a roll call of all the A-listers of technology. They had Sam from OpenAI, Mark, I'm calling him by the first name like I'm best mates, and Mark from
Elon.
Facebook,
Talk about Elon again.
Google, and people from BlackRock were there, a huge who's who, including even Mr. Trump, or POTUS, and they agreed this $800 billion deal, and really cementing the fact that AI is the new oil.
Yeah. Absolutely, and so as the oil runs out and all that sort of stuff, they move away, they pivot away, is obviously to this new, as you say, the kind of the AI is the new oil. And yeah, I think from a power perspective, obviously having solar power out in the sand in the desert and stuff like that, that's pretty powerful. How they're going to water cool it might be the next kind of challenge.
Plant seeding,
with
robots.
Absolutely, yes. Of course, solved, tick. Next. But yes, it's huge. We are all going to be using AI so much, and we're going to be asking all sorts of questions, such as the pumping house that we're in right now, Matt. Do you know what it used to be used for?
No.
Interestingly, it was used to, the aquifers under here, it was used to pump the water out for the whole of Nottinghamshire.
Wow.
There we go. See,
so we don't have a phone signal.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what my $20 of ChatGPT got me this month.
I hope you didn't say please and thank you, and you saved a bit of energy.
Yeah, we're actually going to curse people for being polite now. That's going to be the next thing, isn't it?
All
right, so that is this week's tech news and AI news. We just wanted to do our usual tool of the week before we go. What's our tool of the week this week, Matt?
According to show notes, it's Black Forest Labs, I can't even say it, context AI model.
That's right, yes. Smoothly done as ever. You've listened to this show before, you know how good we are. So Black Forest Labs, these guys have done a lot of the Grok, so the original Twitter AI images. So these were the ones where you could get Donald Trump as a superhero and Kamala Harris as something awful, and people did. So Black Forest, their new version of their AI images is now out, and apparently it's amazing. I have to say, I got stuck on the ChatGPT sort of image generator at the minute because it's just so good, you just don't need to go anywhere else. But there are still a load of other very good image generators, some of which have got different specialisms. This one particularly, it will let you do real people.
That's it. And as you say, quite a lot of them, like we talked about last week, the fact that in ChatGPT you've still got Sora on the left, but we're now waiting, we've got videos, AI being dropped left and centre. Yeah. Do you get pulled into that ChatGPT ecosystem, or do you spread your eggs into different baskets?
And I think it's an interesting moment, and just slightly off that particular topic, where Google is right now, because Google is kind of their IO the other week, and as it's settled, the dust has settled, and what they announced was just so huge.
There's still things sneaking out, aren't there? It's like and same with Microsoft Build. I hadn't realised during Microsoft Build that they'd back the model context protocol, which we touched on earlier, and saying that they will utilise that, which is obviously getting that critical mass. Now Google has still got their own, it's A2A, agent to agent protocol, and I'm sure, like with everything in the early days before XML took over, that there'll be different, or Betamax versus VHS. People will try to position themselves, but so much stuff is still coming to the surface from that. It's incredible. The other one, actually, sorry, still staying off topic, is Microsoft Build. They also announced that there's a thing it's called Actions, where you can actually ask the agentic AI to take control of your computer and then move around the screen. Different to what we talked about previously with Microsoft Recall, but this is actually, it can go in and click around on your screen and control your laptop, your machine for you as part of what you're asking them to do. Yeah,
it's insane.
So it's like, I'm off down the pub, can you pretend I'm at work for the next
exactly. hour? I'm working from home.
You don't need the nodding dog anymore on your mouse, it's just please pretend I'm here.
Exactly. All right, well, that is all we've got time for this week. Thank you so much for listening in. We'll be back next week with even more of property AI news. Thanks very much, Matt.
No, it's been great, hasn't it? Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah, enjoy, guys. And again, if you're around for next week's AI Millionaire Property Academy, then do come down here, and we'll be there as well.
Not down here, we're not here. Berkshire and Warwickshire, but in reverse order.
Yeah, but it'll be really good. All right, take care.
Have a great week.
See you later. Bye.